In this lecture, we're going to talk about color. What is color? When you look at something and you say it's blue, is it really blue? Is the blue that you see the blue that other people see? All right. So, in talking about color, we just want to establish a few things. Light varies in both intensity and wavelength, and this variation in amplitude or height uh, is characteristic of the wave. And the wavelength itself is distance between two peaks. So these characteristics I've talked about, amplitude and wavelength itself, uh, makes you see different colors. So light of different wavelengths appear to us as different colors. Specifically, light of different wavelengths appear to us as different colors. So a few things to note before we go on. For instance, you've heard from way back that black is not a color and it's only the black, the thing that you're seeing as a black object has absorbed all the colors of the visible spectrum, and it reflects none of them to your eyes, and so you see black. So, what you see is all about reflections. You see something and it reflects a certain uh, ambience of waves towards you, and those waves are in a specific distance, they've got a specific wavelength. And depending on the wavelength of the rays that come back at you and you take in, this can be considered as colors. So white on the other side is a color. It reflects all of them, okay? It reflects all of them at a go, and so you just see white. All right, so there's that picture for you to just remember. So a black object again, guys, may look black, but technically it may still be reflecting some light to you, um, but it has absorbed more or less all the colors of the visible spectrum. Um, for example, a black pigment results from a combination of several pigments um, that you might have, especially if you're an artist. You know that if you mix up several pigments, you collectively uh, make this darker color, um, as it will absorb most of the colors. It will then reflect none to the eye. Um, and if mixed in very appropriate proportions, you will notice that colors, when mixed together, make different colors. And we've been doing this from the time that we were at primary school. So let's see why we're able to do all of these. We have what are called chromatic and achromatic colors. For instance, black, white, and shades of gray are called in shades of gray, and everything in between are called achromatic colors. Okay, so in dim light we see only achromatic colors. I don't know, maybe some of you see red when you switch off the lights. You never know, but blues, reds, greens, and yellows are all chroma, okay, from the word color. So chromatic colors, it's like saying colorful colors. All right. So chromatic colors, these are colors that we see in very good light, and the we use the mechanism of cones. All right. So how many colors are there? So people can distinguish over 2 million different colors from three cones. Um, so the only the thing that happens is you have three cones. And out of those three cones, you have 2 million different colors because you're able to contrast by brightness and also saturation. For instance, brightness is just our perception of how intense light is, okay? And what is intensity? Remember, intensity is just the amplitude of the wave, okay? What is saturation? So saturation is inversely related to amplitude. I beg your pardon. There was a note there. As I said, saturation is inversely related to the amount of whiteness. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not inversely related to the intensity, it's inversely related to the amount of whiteness. So when you say this is saturated, then there is less whiteness. For example, red is more saturated than pink, boys. Okay, um, so now we're getting somewhere. So there have been several theories that have come up in order to explain how color comes about. One of them is from the Young-Helmholtz theory. So these guys say there are three kinds of cones that you have. We've already established that, and each cone contains a different pigment. All right. So the sensation of any given color is determined by the relative frequency of impulse from each of these three cones. So you have an impulse. So when light comes or when that object reflects a light towards you, it will stimulate blue, green, and uh, red cones. Okay, and once those are stimulated, okay, once those are stimulated, they will be stimulated in a relative way, and the combination of this is now what you're going to view as the color of that particular thing. So when you look at one object, it's reflecting different combinations compared to another object. You look at Mrs. Kazo, she's reflecting towards you less color, and so you view her as darker. And you look at uh, Miss Miyoba, she reflects something that is lighter. So you say, oh, she is lighter than Mrs. Sika's color. All right. So the three different photosensitive pigments, as I said, they're red, green, and blue. I hope I did not say anything else in my talk. It's red, green, and blue. So the color perceived depends in part on the color of other objects in the field as well. So if you're going to, let's say that is green, it also depends on the background color. And this is something that photographers have been able to use in order to make people look, let's say, lighter or darker. By just changing the background, you find that the perception of color changes. For example, a red object is seen red if they I beg your pardon, a red object is seen as red if the field is illuminated with the colors green or blue. Yeah, then you'll be able to see and say, oh, that is definitely red, because you're removing the probable green and the probable blue and remaining with the corn red being more stimulated. So when illuminated with red light or white light, or anything that is close to the red, you will view it as mostly pinkish than it will be red. If you don't believe me, try it at home. This is something that you can try at home. So what are these waves that we're talking about? Um, we go back. The blue is on the lower wavelength, and the red is on the highest wavelength, and everything in between gives us all the colors possible, uh, with green being in the middle and black, I think it's being between blue and red as a wavelength somewhere there. Okay, is the pathway. Okay, what's the pathway? So color is mediated by ganglion cells, all right, and these subtract or add inputs from the cones. So you have the three cones um, illuminating or being stimulated, and then at the end of the day they all have to go to the ganglion cell, and the ganglion cell itself has the ability to inhibit and disinhibit until you get the proper color that you need or that is being seen. All right, so processes in the ganglion cells and the lateral geniculate nucleus as well that produce these definite colors that need to be detected by the brain as A, B, or C. For example, we have the red and green pathway. Okay, so I'm going to describe three pathways. You have the red green pathway. The signal differences are between red and green cone responses. So when the red cones and the green cones are stimulated, you have this pathway also stimulated. Then you have the blue and yellow pathway. The blue-yellow pathway. These signals come about when there is when there's a difference between the blue cone, okay, the difference between the blue cone and the sum of the red and green. Remember, when you put red and green, it will give you yellow. So the ganglion has a summation of blue plus, okay, it has a summation, okay, it has it's a difference between the blue cone and red and green. So red and green is yellow from the blue. Then you have this pathway. Then you have the luminous pathway. The luminous pathway signals the sum of red and green cone responses. So these pathways, what do they do once they're stimulated? They project to what are called blobs. All right, now blobs are just components of the 4C layer of the V1, remember? And these blobs project the information to V8. Remember, we did say the V8 is the one that is in charge of color. So this is the pathway that is involved with color. So what happens to people who are colorblind? Before I go on with this, please watch the attached video on theories of color, and it will explain more on what I've explained on the previous slide. So individuals with normal color vision are called trichromates. They have all three. In color blindness, we have one or more of these primary colors defective, okay, or absent. So absent is anopia, defective is anomalous. All right. So if a person misses one of these cones, they are called dichromates because they only have two. Um, there are all sorts of blindness when it comes to color. We're going to do a practical session to see if you are colorblind, and there we're going to also talk about what these practical exercises are based on. But there are those that have green red blindness. They can't distinguish all colors from green through red. Now here's what I mean when I say green through red. You've seen that green has a median of 535 and red goes to 575. So all these colors in between here, they can't distinguish them. So they can distinguish some form of greenish, bluish, and some of reddish, orangish, but not not a true red or a true green and everything in between. Okay. Then we also have people who are red-green colorblind. So it's also another genetic disorder that occurs almost exclusively in male. So actually, this one is not another one. It's the same one. Um, we're just trying to say what yeah, that's better. Just trying to say that this occurs uh, due to genetics and it's in male. So we can actually just say green, red, That's better, right? So, why is this so? It's because this is in the X, this is in the X chromosome of the female. All right, they code for the respective cons. So it's for a male, it's mm-hmm, in there.